Hello everybody. So in this video we're going to proceed working in our API, and what I want to do is I want to do the database connection. But before that I want to do the logic for actually have the CRUD application working. The CRUD application is pretty much all the API endpoints in order to create, read, update, and delete records. That's what CRUD stands for. CRUD is create, read, update, and delete. And the idea is to have a simple API with simple objects that we will actually use in order to implement those particular elements to create, read, update, and delete. And we are going to be working with our view directory application. So we're going to be using this API in order to fill that data and be able to update that information and to read multiple information from there. If we remember correctly, this is what we did. We did a login through Firebase. And what I want to do is I want to, instead of creating this on the front end and faking it every time that we refresh the page, I want to save those records, probably still using Faker.js just to save it once. And then instead of having through the front end, we actually will pull in that data from the API. And I would like to actually be able to create our profile where we can actually create the profile, we can read it, and we can actually update it if needed. So the object that we're going to be using is going to have the name, the position, area, a quote, and probably we can add like phone numbers and emails and other elements. So whenever we click somebody, we can actually see that detailed page that we didn't create yet. But the idea is to use this API and this application to consume the API that we're building. So let's get started. Okay, I did a couple of changes on the app that I want to just show it. You can keep it as it is for your case, but I just want to show what I did in mine. You can do this too, but it will depend for everybody. So I changed the helpers folder to utils. So everything that I'm importing from there is actually utils. And I changed my logger. Instead of using the Pino, I'm actually using Consola. I like this a little bit better. So the way that I did it is my logger, I use import Consola. And then I just created const logger equal Consola in order to pull it off. And that way, in my routes, I can have my logger.info with my information. In my main index, the main page, we have the logger info for the server running in specific port. And what it changed a little bit was the error side, because the logger error, instead of having the error and the error message tag, I just have a logger.error, where I just create a new error, sending that particular message. And because it's a new error, the stack is going to be printed automatically. So it's actually pretty neat. And let me show you how that actually works. So this is my console for now. Let's do npm on that. Perfect. And let's open my request. Here I have my local host. So I open it, have my cool API server, Rodolfo Roman. We can have the info. We have that little emoji there for the info telling us what we're doing. We're inside the root path, and we still have the Morgan that gave us the other route. If we are something that doesn't exist, no exist, for example, and because we are in development environment, we have the error stack over here, but the error stack over here is a little more readable. I think it's a little bit better to see it in this particular way. And I need to pretty much that in the error handler it happened, and it was created through my routes pretty much. And that's where everything just happened itself. Not found, no exists particular. And I think that's it. And we can actually have those over there. Cool. So let me minimize this for now. And let's continue working with the API itself. So the first things that I want to do is I want to have my API endpoint. So in my root, I will create a new file, and this file will be inside my API folder. I will create my index.js. And this one, let's do a simple import router from Express. There you go. And then we do const router equal router as a function, and then we export defaults the router itself, right? And we're going to do something in a minute. So we have this API endpoint through here. And let me go to the index that is out in the route. The index that, not the index that is inside the API folder, the index that is inside the route. I will be doing is import API from API folder. And what I will do is pretty much I will replicate this. I say my API endpoint will be using my API import. Something as simple as that. So this little index here, I will just, that this is the one that is inside the API folder. We can actually do something really just to showcase what I'm doing here. Router.get, and let's do a simple get request that will send inside API endpoint. And we close that. And I want to showcase something that is happening here. As you can see, we are making the root one to be this particular endpoint. And we know that the root in reality, what it's doing, and I have the root in my Thunder client. So you can make the call to the root, actually pointing to my root message. But if I do root API, I'm actually inside my API endpoint. It doesn't matter that I'm doing root over here, because in the file that is inside the root, I'm saying that it's relative path according to the API endpoint. So we can have that segmentation, that modularization here. So this is pretty much the same as if we had this like API. And let me just copy this over and put it right here. So this is actually the same as use this. But this function is the one that I'm just exporting. Well, I put in another file and just importing it right here. This is pretty much what I'm doing. And that helps us have that segmentation and that modularity to have small controllers and easy to troubleshoot, or to keep the logic separated depending on the controller that we will require. So this is the API itself. And the endpoint that I want to do is actually the directory endpoint, or the person's endpoint. Let's actually call it person's endpoint. So inside my API, I want to, and let me actually commit those. Added API route. Perfect. So inside my API folder, I will create another one called this person. And this person will be really similar to this. Let me actually copy everything to here, paste it here, it's faster. And we will do something different. Here, this will be get all persons. We can actually, in our index for the API, we need to import person. And actually, this should be plural. Let's actually do that. It should not be singular. It's a best practice to have the endpoint as a plural. Let's do persons endpoint. In my index inside the API, I will import that one from API person, but I'm already inside API, so I just need to do something like this. Yes. And we can say router.use in our persons endpoint. We're going to be using our person function. I think this should be enough for now. And we call the API. If we do API persons, we can see that we can actually get all the person information. So we are actually constructing the URL, the different resources that will be utilized in order to produce or to get the data the way that we need it. In this particular case, even that persons, in the persons JavaScript is a root because we are exporting it and importing in the index API. So through the API, it's his relative path is persons, but to the main route, and that one is this one, sorry, in the route folder, the API is relative to API endpoint. That means we have a nested there. That's why API persons is the one to actually pull up that particular data. Okay. So we will have this one, and this will be the endpoint for getting all the persons. We're going to do another GET request. And this GET request will use a parameter. And let's call this parameter ID. And it will be in getting person with one particular ID. And for that, let's do inner request dot request dot params, because we are saying a parameter. The parameter is with colons, and we do the ID. So we're telling now that everything that is after persons and have something that will be identified as an ID. Let's verify how that actually works. So my persons endpoint point, and if we do this is the ID, getting person, this is the ID. Let's do X, getting person X. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, getting person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So through the request object, and that's what I want to say. So far, we've been working with the response object. So we say response, send something. In this particular say, we're saying response send, and we're using something about the request object, looking at the parameters and the ID specifically. Cool. So this will be the way to get all the persons, and this will be the way to get one person with a particular ID. Let's create the other object, the other endpoint. Let's do a post. We'll simple press send, creating a new person. We will put those modules or elements to work later. For now, we will just create the endpoints. Let's do the push request, run a particular ID, and we are doing is just updating that particular person. And lastly, we're just deleting that particular ID, and we are deleting that particular person. So that's all the endpoints that we actually need to have in our person's endpoint. To utilize that, let's actually see. So let's just repeat that. Get request to persons. We get it everybody. It's one particular person. We are getting that. If we do a put request to that one, we are updating that person. If we're doing a delete request to that one, we are deleting that person. We can actually see a difference verbs in function in this little object over here, and actually we just created our API endpoints with different verbs. That's actually, it's pretty neat if you think about that. With the post should be without the ID, and that create a new person. So what about if we send a post request with something there? It doesn't exist. The post request to something that is not on the person endpoint, it doesn't exist. So we can actually not do this. We need to be without that one in order to create a person. Now, if we need to delete persons, it doesn't exist. The verb delete in the person's endpoint doesn't exist. It need to create or need to have a particular ID. And of course, that ID is something that we need to validate. Reality. But this is pretty much the way to have the different endpoints working in our application. And you can define as much as you need, but usually this is pretty much the object. Now, in a little more complex, and I don't know if we're going to go into that route, let's imagine that we have like a block or comments. So we can actually have the comments table, and actually probably we can do it. And that will work a little bit better when you have like a several. So imagine like a block, and every person like an author. So if you want to get like everybody's post element or everybody's comments, we can actually do something like router.get, and let's do or something like this. For example, get me the address of this particular ID. We can actually get the address for that particular person. So if we just do a simple get request with the ID, it's just getting the person data. But if we do the /address, we get that person particular address. And you can actually work and do nested information, hope the resources. And this is how those resources relationship in our REST API works. For now, we will keep it simple as get, post, put, and delete. Let's save those and add it. Persons API endpoint. Cool. So now let's actually fake our data. Let's fake our information that it will be consumed through here. So one of the things that I would like to do now. Oh, I didn't showcase that. Let me open this one. Perfect. You can see that the post requests are being there. The delete requests are being showcased whenever it fails, whenever it's good. And we have the get, the put, the delete. Like everything just gets saved in our logs that we're saving here. So that's just to see it in order to verify that. So let me minimize it. Let's proceed to do the model. So what I want to do now, I want to create inside my source. I will do models folder, and I will do my person model over here. Actually, let's do it plural just to keep consistency on the name. So I have inside my source models person. Here we want to have that particular endpoint. So we are supposed to be calling the database. So let's fake the database with a simple const persons equal an empty array, right? Imagine that we are actually pulling the database and we are getting that. And we can actually do const persons, and we just reply with that particular person, and we can actually export it. Export const persons. We can do export const get person in singular. We need to send in a particular ID, and we need to respond or find that particular person with that particular person ID. As simple as that. And I'm actually, this should be equal, sorry, And let's do the, yes, like this. So through the find element in an array, we can have a value and we can set person ID equal that particular ID that we're sending to here. We can export cons create person. We send the person object. Pretty much we just pushing it, the person object, but in reality, we need to push is an ID, and probably we can do something like this. Let's do npm install nano ID. Nano ID is an element just to create automatically ID through npm. Let's do npm run that. Oh, and we can actually do it on the top. Import nano ID from nano ID itself. So we need to create const ID equal nano ID. This is the way that we just created. And whenever we're going to push in reality an object. And that object should be the ID that we generated. And the rest of the elements, deconstructing the person element. Right? And what is happening here? It's parsing next token. Oh, it has an extra one. There you go. Oops. I'm missing the open. There you go. So we're sending that ID that we just created and that particular person. Simple as that. The next endpoint that we have so is the put and the delete. So export const update person. We need to send the ID, we need to send the person elements, and pretty much we want to find it, the index of that particular person, and if that index exists, we just change the element keeping the same ID and just send the rest of the data of the person. As simple as that. Right? Actually, find index should not be like that. In reality, it should be something like this. So we can actually get the person through ID, and this actually already responds with that particular person. So we can actually do const person actually let's call it database person equal, we can call get person with this particular ID. And if we have a database person, we can proceed that persons of that particular, we can say it. Yes, we need to find the index here. So here will be actually that person exists. Let me think how we can actually do it in a faster way in an array. Yes, probably in this case the index will be the best route. So let's do const index. Let's actually call it person index will be equal. Find it. We have the person element. Yeah. Let's actually call this element P in order not to conflict with the person object. So we send the person index through that, and then on the person index, we just save the same ID and the rest of the element of the person. And I'm not sure we can actually do, yeah, so like that. So this pretty much will be the data need to be sent through. So this is a little more complex, but I will show you a little bit how it actually works. And to delete it, let's go delete person with one particular ID. Something really similar. We just use the splice element of that particular index, and we remove that element itself. That's it. And I think we are good here. So we have the different element for the data that need to be created, like the different element for the model itself that need to be utilized. So let's get back to our person API endpoint, and let's import that. So let's import from this will be clear back models. There you go. Persons. And we're going to get pretty much everybody. So let's do get persons in plural. We're going to use get person in singular. Create person. Update person. What else we can actually do? We can actually do, we have, we're missing delete person. So we're just getting all of them, and it's complaining that we're not using it. So in order to do this, will be cons. Getting all will be cons persons equal get persons. And we just sending back our persons. That's it. Inner ID will be really similar. Cons person equal get person with the request parameter ID. And we are sending back that particular person. Inner post, we're going to be, this will be a little bit different, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's actually work right now with the update, with the put. It's something really similar. So let's call this update person, and we're going to use the request parameter ID for this element, and we will use another element, request.body, and we'll talk about the body itself. Let's actually do the post now. Let's do const new person equal request.body, and then actually not request.body directly, will be create person, and then we send the request.body in the body element where we send the new person object, and we're sending back that new person. Then on the put message, we just updating the person and sending to that person with that particular ID. We can call it, or we can just see like done, probably. And for deleting, will be very similar. Delete that. And instead of updating, let's actually change this person ID with that particular ID updated. We don't need to send the person back if we don't need to, or we can. Let's keep as it is. And then the message for this one, new person with that particular ID deleted. And let's see if this actually works. Well, wait, before we actually try to make it work, I created the element, and we are looking at the parameter body. The parameter body is not available right away. So we need to do something extra in our main index inside the source directory. When we have our Express application exposed, we need to do the body parser in order we need to tell Express how to understand the body elements when those are being sent. And the most common one is actually called body parser. In order to use it, will be, let me cancel this. Let's do npm install body dash parser. Let's do npm run that. Oh, we have an issue here. Person JavaScript not supported. Nano ID. I have an issue with my Nano ID. Let me verify that. So this is Nano ID, and it actually should work. Import Nano ID from Nano ID, and then we just generate the Nano ID to get a random ID generator for us. So why it didn't like it? Let's go to the person here. And we still cons ID equal Nano ID, and we importing Nano ID from Nano ID. It's pretty much the same as we have here. Import Nano ID from Nano ID, and the ID, whatever that we need, is Nano ID as a function itself. So let me see what is happening, what is complaining. Okay, I think there is problem with the newer version of Nano ID and how bubble actually works. So we need to remove it. Let's do npm remove Nano ID. And we need to install a new one called UUID. npm install unique user identification, UUID. And then we just need, instead of doing import nano, we need to import version 4. There is different version from UUID. And because version 4 have a really ugly name, let's change this to UUID or as, actually. Oops. Yeah, we even have the version 5 there. So let's do version 4 as unique identifier, and then we just use it like that. Really simple. UUID. UUID. There you go. That should be more than enough. npm from development. Server running. Perfect. So now, if we call our endpoint in a GET request, we're receiving OK with an empty array. Nobody exists. And I think I didn't talk about the body parser. Maybe, did I work on that? I don't remember actually. Let me just review really quick. Do we install it? Body parser is there. Yeah, we installed it, so we don't need to use it. We didn't. Okay, so let me just verify that really quick. Let's do body parser express. And same express have that information. We just need to install it. We use it with parser requires, and at the end, I think we just do application uses body parser JSON. That's pretty much what we need. So let's do it like that. Let's go to the index in the source. Helmet. Let's do import body parser from body parser. And then we just do application, use body parts JSON. Good. The application is still running. Perfect. Let's test the endpoint that returns that empty one. So let's do a post request. And for now, let me just send a simple basic object. We go to the section of the body as a JSON. And let me send, right now, I will not be sending everything. So just put like name, put over here, Rodolfo. And that. Cool. It went fine. We didn't respond to anything. We need to verify we didn't actually send nothing back. But if we change this to a get and we'll do it, now our get request, don't worry, remember, the body is never used in the get request. So the get request to the person, now you actually respond with that person. Let's create a couple other ones. Let's call, I don't know, John, the post. Let's do Peter. Let's do Tony. And let's do one last one, Leap. Post. If I do a get request now, everybody's there. We were able to push them, able to get that particular person. Let's now get this particular ID. And if I do get request with that particular ID, we're just getting John itself. Right? Pretty cool. Now, what else can we actually send here? Let's change this to a put request. And instead of John, let's actually call it new John. Person that updated. Perfect. That means we change the same ID as a get request. Now, John is called new John. And if we do the main one, we can see that in reality, yes, John is new John now. Good. And last one, let's delete that ID. Person deleted. Let's do a get request to that particular person. It doesn't respond to anything. It doesn't exist anymore. And if we see everybody, we just see 4 different persons. And John is not there anymore. So as simple as that, and just handle a simple array, we're able to create the endpoint of CRUD elements. We are almost done, with the difference that we are actually responding 200 to everything. And it should not be 200. We need to be more consistent what is the response that we're doing. And also, and whenever we save another person, let's call this, I don't know, Lennon. Let's do a post request. We are responding with 200 and with an object. I want to start responding with the object of that particular person just created. So let's see what we can do about that. Let's comment all everything that we have. Let's do const, actually added basic model. I don't know. Then you can actually do in the person model. Yeah, the get person we're returning. The create person, we are not returning anything. So we actually need to fix that. So we actually need to return get person with the ID that we just created. And then we created. Cool. Update person, we just send in that person just got updated we can actually do as simple as return get person ID. So it's not necessarily do the finding again. We just reuse the same function over and over, and we delete it. We don't need to do anything here. Cool. In our API endpoint is where we think we need to change. So whenever we do this one, of course, should be the 200 we are finding there. This one, get one person, should be 200 if that person is there. But we need to verify if that actual person exists. So we can do if person, we're going to respond with the person. Actually, we need to do res.status. No, it should be there. We respond with the person. If not, the res.status for 144 person is found. And we post the person. We need to send the status. And we need to send the status 201 because when we create it, and this just happened if new person exists, we don't need to 201 is created element. If that new person was not created for any reason, and we will not see it right now this, but we will see it probably in when we do the database connection. We need to respond as a batch request. But it doesn't work. I'm going to put it person updated, and I think that one HTTP. Let me look for that one. I don't remember. So I just look for the status code. Let me use those. And successful responses. The 200 is okay. Create it. We can actually do. Let me see. Accepted has been received, but not yet acted upon. Not content. Reset. Content no. There's not much that we can do. But we can actually use 200 should be, well, yeah, that's okay for the get, for the put and the post when reascribing something. In this case, we just put it as a 200, so we can actually keep as it is for the put. So the post send this one, the put, update person. And what we're sending, let's do const updated person equal that, because now this returns a particular person that we have here, get person ID. And we can actually do updated person, const. If the updated person exists, we can actually send it back. If not, we can send person not found, that I particularly didn't exist. And we can do the same for the delete. For the delete, we are sending nothing there. So let's actually do turn. What we can actually do here, return true. Can do once deleted equal delete person. We can say if that person got deleted, Do you send that? If not, we can actually send person not found. As simple as that. And I think we have everybody. Let's test those. Getting the persons. Oh, we did a post request with Lennon. Let me get to the get request. And we just have only Lennon because the server was restarted when the source code changed, and because restarted when the source code changed, the array got empty. We are not saving the array anything. It's just right now in memory. So when the application restarted, we don't have the array anymore. So let's do Lennon. Let's do Rodolfo. The post. Let's do Michael. Angelo. Let's do Silver. I don't know, something. Let's do Pancho. Let's give a couple of them there. Good. So let's change match. Let's try to get Michelangelo. There you go. Let's do a put request. And it's actually Leonardo. Let's change the name. Ooh, we have an issue here when we did the put. Didn't like it. Receive function update person. What I'm doing wrong here? Wait, buffer. So let me see the put update person, and the update person, what it does, get person ID, and the get person ID returns the person's fine. Would be like that, or you can actually return this element, maybe. Maybe. You just remove the element that we got saved. Oops. Put that back in. Let's try it again. So let's post Nardo. Oh, without the ID. And let's change Leonardo. Actually, let's do get request to see if it's there. It is. So let's do the put Leonardo. Let's do Rafael. Let's see, change the name. Let's see if this actually works. Boom. Didn't like it. I didn't like it. Where did it actually fail? Let's try to reshoot. Receiving a function, update person. Cannot set headers after they are sent to the client. Get API person. What is happening here? Let me verify that. Okay, I think I see my issue. I'm sending back the function update person instead of sending back the updated person. That is the main problem here. So let's try it one more time. Have that. Let me see if my server is running. By the way, you type rs when it's running, it just restart the server without needing to stop it. Let's do a post request for Rafael. Perfect. Let's get that ID there, and let's do a put now with X name. Perfect. And we respond with a new person. If I do a get request with that person, it responds the same. And this one responds everybody. Then we do a delete. Perfect. If we try to do a delete again, ooh, it's still working. It's not supposed to. Okay, we need to verify the delete part. Let's do get request with something that doesn't exist. Not found. Person not found. Perfect. Let's do a put with a person that doesn't exist. ID caras. Ooh, interesting. It went us like that. So we have backdoors to verify. So we saw the delete is not doing properly. Oh, but it didn't save it. Oh, it didn't save it. So let's get back to the model. So now that we actually need to return should be get person ID. We need to call it again because database person is the original person itself. So we need to call it because it's been just updated. So we are not keeping the instance of that. We just pretty much like extracting the copy of the data. That's why we send the get person. Okay. And let's go to see the API endpoint for the delete. We should be sending person as found. Delete person. Oh, the return true will be here. And if now we need to return false. That's why it was failing this section. Try one more time. So get, we don't have anybody. Wet X doesn't exist. Perfect. Let's post X. We created X. Let's put that one with new name. It's working. If we change the ID to something that doesn't exist, it should not be able to post anybody. Person not found. That ID it doesn't exist. Perfect. What else we can try to do? We can try to delete. Person not found. But if we delete the ID that we have, there you go. And if we try it again, person not found. So now we have the whole endpoint there. And it's working as it's supposed to. So let me get back here. Let's save it. We commit actually, and let's put it error missing terms. Cool. We sync the changes. And everything that we sync it should be already posted on Coolify. So in the next video, probably what I will do for next week. We will finish this part and doing two different elements. The database connection. So we actually save the information where it's supposed to be. We do a little more extra validations. And we protect our API endpoint in order to have some kind of, actually 54 minutes been recording this. Let's try to implement that really quick and have like a simple protection in those APIs. And let's do something really simple. It's not the best one, but just to have some kind of protection there, let's use this over here. So Express Basic Authentication, what it does, we just create it, we import it, and we put as a middleware. where we define user and password. As simple as that. And that will protect every endpoint where we need to actually send the authentication piece. So let's try that. Let me just console this. Let's do npm install express basic out, and I hope that we can actually use it. npm run dev. I'm going to be creating a new utility to source fields. Let's call the authentication out.js. And we're going to be doing something really simple like what we did with the errors. We don't be importing the logger, but it's just to show, it should be like a different place just to identify whenever we call a different endpoint we need to. But we can keep it as it is. But we need just to create a function that pretty much have a request, response, next in this case. So this should be simple to use. Actually, probably we don't even need the endpoint because we're not even using it anywhere else. So let's actually remove it. We don't need the authentication yet, sorry. Let's get the main index is inside the source. And let's just import it. Import basic out from express basic authentication. I'm going to use it. I will use it right here on the top because I want to protect my endpoint, and Nostro Morgan will be basic out, and we just need to send the object of the user, and let's save the password in the env admin password. Yeah. So let's do that, and actually we can actually do the user the same. So I think we do the user something like this. We can use process.env.admin user. There you go. Now we can actually define it as a variable there. So we go to our env in this case. Let's do admin user equal, let's do really simple, admin, and admin password equal admin. Just to simplify, but it should be better. And never put your admin user and password in your env variables. Those actually, you need to go like to a database to pull up data in. But right now we just simplifying and having a really basic implementation of the protection of the endpoints. After we have that, we have admin user, admin password. We actually call it password. No pass is password. There you go. We just restart it just in case. And let's try to make the same call to post somebody. And this should fail. Unauthorize. We are not able to see anybody. Let's do get a request. Unauthorize. We are not able to pull that data. Now we're responding the way they're supposed to. So how we fix that? In the authentication endpoint, we select basic and we put our username and password that we define it. With that, we are able to make the calls. Let me do a post with the body. Perfect. And I'm able to create now. I'm able to change name. Oops. I have something issue here. To post. Actually, let's do a get request. New name is there. So let's do a get that one. We get that one. Let's do a put. His name. There you go. And we are able to do it. Now let's remove the authentication. And let's try it without changing anything. Just the authentication, try to get the same one. We know that it's there. We just said, you're not authorized. So that's the simple way just to protect the app, and probably will be a lot better. So let's actually put those there. And before actually put it there, let me just cancel this. And let me open my EMB variables. And let's put those on my EMB example. Just to remember what are the ones that I need to put there. Oh, let's put it there. And at the example one, we added basic out. Cool. So let's go through our panel now. And let's actually do something because I think we didn't handle the EMB variables in the panel. Before running something that we need to define, we need to implement. So let me actually work on that section. This is my panel. I have something different elements there, and we will see some of those later. For now, let me go to my API server node. And in order to make the secrets work, in this case, because it's how I do it, my demo server is not the one that I'm actually using at the moment. I'm using something different. So you don't need to do this part. I will actually, let me stop it and let me get back to here. Okay, just deleted that one. So let me just add it back. You should have a radar. So let me just add a new application for my GitHub. And I'm calling that, I think, server. Basic no server, there you go. My main branch will be Node.js, it's already selected, perfect. But there here, demo API server. And this one will be from HTTPS. Let's call it API, let's use that one. Will be Node.js, I will use Node.js 18 here. It is invalid, rodoroman.com. I need to verify that in a minute. So the port of the app will be 3000, npm install. Build will be npm run build. And to start command will be npm run start. Let me remember those. Yes. And then we have the build folder. So that one, it should be in the base directory, should be base, and the published directory should be build. I need to go to my secrets and it's to adding those particular secrets. Now, something really cool that is allowed to do it, we can actually paste my EMB file here. And let me do that. Let me get back to my EMB. I know that this one is not being in my GitHub because it's not being tracked, but I can pretty much just copy over, paste it right here, and change this one to production. And I think the same, the rest stays the same. Add secrets in batch. Boom. Everything is there. My admin password, admin user, course, Morgan log node EMB. Yeah, we can actually see those production. There you go. My port 3000. My application is there. Let's actually change the name of the application. Call it directory API. Okay. Set. And the preview secrets will be pretty much the same. Update. Boom. I need those during build time. Oops, except the last one. And you should force the redeploy in order to produce it. In my case, because I just put it again, I just do a simple deploy. And let's wait for the API to be published. Okay, make it work. It was a little bit weird. It will sound really strange. Let me show you what I did. So everything's pretty much the same, with the exception that I created this file, and I will give you this point so you can actually have it. So if you want to go ahead and delete your build and do it again, do it. That's okay. And let me show you what I'm actually. Let me do it myself. Let me stop it, and let me danger zone delete application. Good. We create this Docker file. And because I'm using the latest node, I have node 19, and I'm using that one. But you can actually use node 18. You actually use node 18. So this is remote to create the container where the app it will be there. The way I'm just saying that from Node.js, getting an environment with Node.js, and I just create a random folder where going to be my directory. I copy my package.json to run the npm install, copy the rest of the app, and then I run the npm run build. By the end, I just finish it with npm run start in the CMD. It's really simple, but pretty much the process in order how to create it, install dependencies, build the file, and run it in production. That's it. So in Coolify, to add it, just add the app. It's going to be GitHub. Let me look for my basic node server. Yes. Main. And Coolify will detect it now as a Docker container. So imagine that as an abstraction. It's not a virtual machine per se, but imagine like a lower level virtual machine with a encapsulated environment. And that encapsulated environment have Node.js in there. So we just put it in there. Let's actually put the name, directory, directory API. Let's call this HTTPS API .command. That's my case. Come. Of course, this needs to be already in your control panel, your DigitalOcean. I will expose the port 3000. I will not use anything here, and Docker file is already there. If I save it, I go to my secrets. I will literally copy and paste, change this to production, from production, change this to directory API, and let me remove my name from there. Everything stays the same. We can keep the logs in depth. That's okay. And my user and password in this case will be admin. I will change this after the video, but I will use this for now. So all those secrets as it is, and then I just deploy. Waiting for the deployment to happen. It's running right now. So it will be fast because it's already did it several times in May. You probably will get the building image will take a little bit longer. In this case, because I already run it before. It has like the image pre-saved somehow. And let's go to preview deployments, noted there. And yes, application is up and running. So what I can do is just copy this one over here. I will go through my Thunder client API because that's the one that I have. Authentication, I have my username and password, and directory API. My API is working, it's already deployed. Let me do API. Perfect. Let me do persons. Empty. Let me post somebody. Put it here. Name. Rodolfo. Oops, that actually should be a post request. Nice. And so let me do a get request. And the API is up and running. Took a little bit longer to deploy it to figure out, but we can do that workaround for now. There's an issue with some building parts from Coolify, especially for this kind of application. But with that little file that you will have in the comments, you can actually deploy it to Docker in Coolify without problems. So I really hope that you like it. In the next video, we will be working with the database connection. We will create a database in Coolify, and we will expose the port in order to be able to connect in our environment without the need to actually create a database in our computer. Then we use the same database, or we can use another one for production, and that should be fine. So I really hope that you like it. Any question, any doubt, don't hesitate to reach me. Happy coding, everybody.